The moment the cameras rolled, the tension in the studio was already thick enough to slice with a knife. The air buzzed with anticipation. An unlikely matchup was about to unfold: Denzel Washington versus Donald Trump, on a live town hall broadcast with millions watching from both sides of the political divide. The host barely got through the introductions when Trump, leaning back confidently, gave a smirk and fired the first verbal grenade. "Denzel, I've seen you play great roles," Trump said, voice laced with sarcasm, "but you're not on a movie set anymore. This is real life. You don't get a script here." The audience gave a mixed reaction. Boos clashed with nervous laughter. Denzel didn't flinch. His eyes locked on Trump like a laser. "You're right," he replied, his voice calm but sharp. "This isn't a movie. That's why it's terrifying to see a man who treats the country like it's his personal brand." Trump waved dismissively. "Oh, please. I've done more for this country than Hollywood ever could. I built the economy, I put America first." "That's the problem," Denzel interrupted. His voice rose just enough to demand attention without shouting. "You put yourself first. Your name is on towers, planes, and hats, but never on a single act of real empathy." The audience grew quiet. Trump leaned forward. "I represent millions of Americans, hardworking people who love this country." Denzel stood his ground. "And I've walked with millions who've buried their kids, lost their jobs, and had their voices drowned out by men in gold-trimmed offices pretending to understand." The host tried to interject, but neither man let go. Trump pointed, eyebrows raised. "You don't speak for America, Denzel." That's when Denzel leaned in. "You don't own America." The silence was nuclear. "You rent attention," Denzel continued, each word landing like a hammer. "But this country belongs to the people who bleed for it, not the ones who brand it." Supporters in the back gasped. Even Trump blinked. The host, clearly rattled, finally cut to a commercial break, but not before Twitter lit up with hashtags like #YouDon'tOwnAmerica and #Denzel vs. Trump. The real show had just begun. When the broadcast returned, the energy had shifted. The crowd, still reeling from Denzel's last words, leaned forward as if collectively holding its breath. The host attempted to regain control with a forced smile. "Let's shift gears, shall we?" he offered nervously. "Let's talk unity." But Trump had no interest in calming waters. He turned sharply to Denzel, the familiar edge returning to his voice. "You know what your problem is?" he asked, smirking. "You talk about the people, but you live in a mansion, fly private, and show up when the cameras roll. That's not leadership, that's performance." Denzel didn't blink. He leaned in slightly, voice low and deliberate. "Let me explain something to you, Mr. Trump. I've earned every brick of my home. I didn't inherit millions, bankrupt businesses, or use a foundation to funnel money back into my pockets." That stung. Audible murmurs echoed from the audience. Trump's jaw tightened. "You've made a career convincing people that being loud is the same as being right," Denzel continued. "But volume doesn't equal truth. And charisma isn't character." Trump shot back, louder now. "You know what I did? I ran for president and won. Twice, actually, if you count the real votes. That's more than you've ever done for this country." The moderator flinched but didn't stop him. Denzel smiled, not out of amusement, but disbelief. "You ran for power. And you used pain to climb," he said. "Families divided, communities shattered, and somehow, you made that a brand. Congratulations." Trump clapped slowly, mockingly. "Look who's preaching now. The Hollywood elite, teaching us about humility." Denzel stood up from his seat, slowly, intentionally. "I've buried friends who fought for this country. I've spoken at funerals you've never attended. And I've mentored kids you've never seen. You may have gold, but you don't have ground. You don't have roots. You don't have real skin in this game." That line hit deep. Trump sat back, arms crossed. "You're just mad you weren't in the Oval." Denzel nodded slightly. "No. I'm mad that someone who didn't respect it. The camera caught audience members nodding, some clapping quietly despite the tension. It was no longer just a conversation, it was a reckoning. The host finally managed to speak, "We'll be right back." But the damage, or depending on your side, the truth, was already done. The third segment opened with a thunderous response online. #Denzel Unscripted was trending worldwide. But inside the studio, the atmosphere was strangely still, like the moment before a storm breaks loose. Trump leaned forward again, his tone colder, slower. "You speak like a preacher, but act like a diva," he said, gesturing vaguely toward Denzel. "You think a couple of monologues and a charity check make you some kind of patriot?" Denzel didn't move. His voice dropped, and that only made the words hit harder. "What I do is consistent. What you do is convenient." That line hung in the air. You visit disaster zones when cameras follow. You say, "I love the troops," then mock POWs. You talk about black voters, but only when polls tighten. You stand for nothing but your own applause. Trump grinned tightly. "People don't want sermons, Denzel. They want results. And I delivered, jobs, borders, strength. You delivered fear," Denzel cut in. "And you wrapped it in a flag." The room stirred again. This wasn't just performance, it was political theater turning into a mirror, reflecting something raw back at the nation watching. "I've sat across from men who've lost everything," Denzel said, locking eyes with Trump. "They didn't ask for slogans. They asked to be seen. You gave them blame instead of solutions." Trump scoffed. "And what did you give them? A speech? A handshake at a press event?" "I gave them my time," Denzel replied. "And I didn't charge them for the photo." The crowd reacted, this time louder, mixed but unmistakably shaken. The host raised his hands, trying to contain the moment. "Gentlemen, we're here for civil discourse, not personal jabs." But Denzel raised his hand to the host, respectfully but firmly. "This isn't personal. This is historical. You don't get to build a career bulldozing the vulnerable and then ask for kindness when you're challenged." Trump looked straight into the camera. "America's watching," he said. Denzel nodded. "Good. Maybe this time, they'll see the difference between a leader and a performer." Cut to silence. And then, applause. Not thunderous, not wild. But firm. Real. From both sides of the aisle. A nation was listening. As the commercial break ended, the cameras rolled back to a set no longer hosting a debate, but bearing witness to a reckoning. The moderator exhaled, visibly bracing for what would come next. Trump adjusted his suit jacket and leaned forward, tone heavy with sarcasm. "You keep calling this a performance, Denzel. Yet you've made a living pretending. That's what acting is, pretending." Denzel smiled slightly. "Pretending is what I do on screen. You did it in the White House." The audience gasped. "I had to study for roles," Denzel continued. "You didn't study for the most powerful job on earth." Trump cut in sharply. "I didn't need to study, I built an empire. I made decisions. Real power isn't learned, it's owned." "Real power," Denzel replied calmly, "is when you have every reason to put yourself first, and don't." He looked directly into the camera. "Let me ask the American people something. Are you better off being entertained, or being led?" The room went silent. Trump, unshaken, smirked. "Oh, they're being led all right, right into chaos. Into open borders. Into crime. Into weakness. Under me, we were strong." "Strength without wisdom is just destruction," Denzel shot back. "And you didn't build strength, you built fear. You fed it, monetized it, tweeted it." Trump scoffed. "I exposed corruption, Denzel. That makes people uncomfortable." "No," Denzel said firmly. "You exploited distrust. That's not the same." The moderator tried once again, "Let's keep this focused on policy." Denzel interrupted, voice steady but louder now. This is policy. How you treat people is policy. What you say, who you blame, what you ignore, these things shape lives. Trump rolled his eyes. You're a lecture in a tuxedo. And you're a tantrum in a tie, Denzel snapped back. The studio erupted, not with laughter, not with mockery, but with pure tension. This wasn't just two public figures trading lines. This was a cultural confrontation, a clash of ideals playing out in real time. And America couldn't look away. Trump crossed his arms, jaw clenched. You call me a showman, Denzel, but at least I'm not hiding behind Hollywood scripts. I stood in front of the world and took every bullet. Denzel didn't flinch. No, you redirected every bullet, usually at the people already bleeding. The words landed hard. Trump chuckled dryly. What, now you're the voice of the streets? I don't need to be, Denzel replied. I just listen to them. That's more than you've ever done. He turned to the audience. Leadership is not about dominating a room. It's about carrying the weight of voices who don't get invited in. Trump waved a dismissive hand. Spare us the poetry. People want results. And what results did they get? Denzel leaned in. Children in cages? Journalists mocked? A country divided by zip codes and skin tones? Trump snapped, I rebuilt the economy. You built it on sand, Denzel replied. And when the storm came, it collapsed, on nurses, bus drivers, single moms. The moderator shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Denzel continued, voice thick with conviction. You talk about greatness, but all you've done is shrink the soul of this nation. You made cruelty sound like courage. And people bought it. Trump's eyes narrowed. Careful, Denzel. You're sounding more like a campaign ad than a man. Denzel locked eyes with him. If telling the truth sounds like a campaign, then maybe you're just not used to hearing it. A pause. You can wear the flag, Mr. Trump, Denzel said quietly. But that doesn't mean you carry it. The room froze. For the first time, Trump didn't respond immediately. He looked down. Then back up. You done? No, Denzel said. But America might be. The camera panned across a studio that no longer felt like a debate stage, but a battleground for the soul of a divided country. A voice interrupted the tension. We have a caller from Michigan on the line, the moderator announced, seizing the chance to redirect the explosive moment. Go ahead, you're live. A woman's voice crackled through. I'm a nurse. Single mother of 2. I voted for Trump. Twice. But tonight. I'm listening to Denzel, and I'm wondering what I missed. Trump straightened. You didn't miss anything. You saw results. Jobs, security, law and order. Sir, she cut in, her voice trembling. My hospital ran out of masks. My neighbors died alone. And all I got from you was a tweetstorm and denial. The audience froze. Denzel said nothing. He didn't need to. Another caller followed, a veteran from Texas. Mr. Washington, the man said. I don't agree with everything you say. But when you spoke about carrying the weight of unseen voices, that hit me. Trump, visibly irritated, leaned forward. Are we seriously letting a movie star turn this into a therapy session? Denzel finally spoke. No, Mr. Trump. They're turning this into a reckoning. You're just not used to being held accountable by those you claim to fight for. The studio began to shift. This wasn't a performance anymore. This was a pulse, alive, raw, and reaching beyond the walls of the studio. The moderator tried again. Let's stay on topic. But it was too late. The dam had burst. A teacher from Georgia. A retired firefighter from Pennsylvania. A laid-off factory worker from Ohio. One after another, they dialed in. Some were angry. Some were emotional. But most were finally heard. You divided us, one caller said. You spoke for the rich, not the rest, said another. My son's gone, whispered a mother. And you called it fake news. Trump's eyes flickered, but he remained composed. You're not angry at me, he said. You're angry at the truth. No, Denzel said. They're angry at the lie. And they're done clapping for it. The feed faded to commercial. But no one in the studio moved. America was no longer watching a show. It was waking up. The following morning, America didn't wake up to coffee. It woke up to Denzel's voice on every front page and Trump's scowl frozen on every screen. CNN led with, Denzel unleashes, a cultural reckoning live on air. Fox News countered, Hollywood tantrum, Denzel exploits airwaves to grandstand. The New York Times was more surgical, the night America called in. Within hours, the moment had gone viral. TikTok edits spliced Denzel's line, "You're not used to being held accountable," with booming bass and slow-motion reaction shots. Hashtags like hashtag You Don't Own America and hashtag Denzel vs. Trump trended worldwide. Cable panels were split in chaos. He was speaking truth to power, said one analyst. He was disrespectful to a former president, barked another. Meanwhile, in the White House press room, a reporter fired the inevitable question. Will this affect Trump's possible 2028 campaign? Trump's team released a statement, calling Denzel a fading actor desperate for relevance. But Denzel didn't flinch. He posted a single clip to his social accounts, the veteran's voice from Texas, raw and steady. You reminded me I still matter. That was it. The post racked up 70 million views in 12 hours. A second wave of reactions followed, not just from politicians and pundits, but celebrities, athletes, activists, and everyday citizens. Some applauded Denzel's boldness, others accused him of performative activism. And in the chaos, a deeper question rose. Was this still a debate? Or had it become a movement? In backrooms of networks, producers scrambled to book both men again. This time, not for a panel. For a one-on-one showdown. Face-to-face. Unfiltered. And this time, America wouldn't just watch. It would choose sides. 2 nights later, a new promo shook the airwaves. Trump responds, exclusive live interview, tonight at 8. No one knew who'd be with him. Speculations flew, a Fox host? A conservative actor? Maybe a GOP senator? But when the curtain rose, jaws dropped. Tucker Carlson. The crowd gasped. Trump didn't wait for applause. He strode out, face tight, fists clenched, waving once like a returning warrior. Tucker followed, smirking like a man with ammo. Let's get one thing clear, Trump said before the host could even ask a question. I built things. Real things. Not movies. Not speeches. And not sympathy stunts. Tucker leaned in. You're talking about Denzel? I'm talking about everyone who thinks crying on camera replaces leadership. The studio cheered. But not everyone was clapping. Across the country, millions watched in silence. Then, Tucker delivered the first blow. Why do you think Denzel hit a nerve? Trump scoffed. Because people like being lied to, when it sounds good. He told them pain is someone else's fault. That's Hollywood's trick, write the drama, sell the victimhood, and vanish when reality bites. You're saying he's a fraud? Tucker asked. I'm saying he's an actor playing hero with a script written by grievance. The crowd roared. But online? It split. Some hailed Trump's bluntness. Others saw fear. One post went viral instantly, a side-by-side video. On one side, Trump raising his voice, on the other, Denzel listening silently as callers shared their pain. Caption, one talks. One hears. And beneath it, a question. Who's really acting? Backstage, Denzel watched it all. No rage. No panic. Just a quiet breath. And a decision. When the studio lights came on again, it wasn't Trump in the chair. It was Denzel. And seated beside him, unexpected, steady, quiet, was a gold star mother. Her name was Maria Vasquez. She didn't smile for the cameras. She wasn't here to perform. The host gave a short intro, but Denzel raised a hand. Let her speak first. Maria leaned forward, her voice calm. My son died in a war politicians debated on television. The only time they spoke his name was during campaigns. The room froze. I heard Mr. Trump say Denzel was acting, she continued. If this is acting, I wish more people auditioned. Then she turned to the camera. If you have the courage to send someone else's child to war, have the decency to sit with the people who bury them. Silence. Denzel finally spoke. Not loud. Not angry. Just sharp. You called it a stunt, Mr. Trump. But when pain walks into the room, it doesn't need makeup. It doesn't need a script. It just needs space. Then he looked straight into the camera. I'm not here to win. I'm here to remind. The hashtag let her speak exploded online. In 1 hour, it topped 20 million posts. Even networks hesitant to air Denzel's segment began to rebroadcast it. Word for word. Opposing pundits tried to frame it as emotional manipulation. But the public wasn't buying it. Clips of Maria Vasquez played on loop. One Fox viewer tweeted, I voted for Trump. But tonight, I listened to a mother. And that changes things. Suddenly, this wasn't about Trump or Denzel. It was about a wound America kept covering. And someone had just ripped the bandage off, live. The next morning, Trump posted a video. It wasn't filmed in a studio. It was from Arlington Cemetery. Trump stood beside a row of white gravestones, arms folded, face tight. His voice was solemn. But beneath it, something else simmered. I respect every sacrifice made here, he began. But don't confuse sacrifice with sainthood. Don't confuse pain with policy. He paused. And don't let actors rewrite what it means to lead this country. Within hours, the video racked up 80 million views, and twice as many reactions. Some praised the gesture. Others called it exploitation. But one clip buried the rest. It was Denzel. Not in a studio. Not on stage. In a school gym in Detroit. No lights. No script. Just a circle of chairs. Young men and women, some in hoodies, some in uniforms, sat around him. He said only one thing. If leadership needs a graveyard to make a point, it's already dead. A hush fell. The clip shattered social media. Millions shared it. The caption became a movement. #Alive Leadership. News anchors struggled to keep up. Opinion panels spun themselves into contradictions. But on the ground? People were choosing sides. Not between Trump and Denzel. Between noise and meaning. Between power and presence. The final broadcast of the week ended with a line no one expected, from a young student in Denzel's circle. We don't need more speeches. We need someone to show up. And he did. Denzel rose. No mic. No notes. Just one sentence. I'm not running for anything. Except the truth. The room erupted. This wasn't a campaign. This was a reckoning. And America? It was listening. Some debates aren't about who's louder or who's trending. They're about truth, raw, unpolished, and undeniable. Tonight wasn't just Denzel versus Trump. It was America looking in the mirror, asking itself, who do we trust when the lights fade? If this story struck a nerve, it's because the truth doesn't need a stage, it stands on its own.